The simplification rule says that if you have a conjunction, main operator is a conjunction. This rule only applies to conjunctions. Then you can put either conjunct on a new line. Either one, that's important. So for example, if I have this on a line, I can put not P on a line, one simp. I could also put Q on a line. I could have done this in a different order. In general, it's a good idea to simplify conjunctions when you see them in your proofs. And the conjunction rule basically says the opposite for any two things you have on lines. Emphasis on any two things you have on lines. You can put those two things together and make a conjunction where the two conjuncts are the two things you had on lines. And the order doesn't matter. So let's say we have a bunch of stuff on lines, maybe atomic statements, maybe not. We can use this rule to make conjunctions. So I can make a conjunction of P and Q. I can also make a conjunction of Q and P. I can make a conjunction of P and R or S and P. I could have done it in a different order. Any two lines, you can put them together to make a conjunction. I find that most students don't really have trouble with these two rules so long as you understand that it only applies to conjunctions. So the number one error is to try to simplify things that are not conjunctions. So if you have a conditional, you cannot derive the antecedent using the simplification rule. You also cannot derive the consequent using the simplification rule. And likewise, you can't just make other kinds of statements other than conjunctions. So you can't make a conditional using the conjunction rule. That's not a thing you can do. So that's the most common incorrect way to use either of these rules, is to try to take something that's not a conjunction apart or to try to make some other kind of statement using the conjunction rule. You can only use these two rules to work with conjunctions. The other kind of mistake, which applies to all of our rules, is to try to apply them to parts of lines. So if you have a conditional, say, you cannot try to simplify the conjunction in the consequent, so we can't derive Q using simplification. It only applies if the main operator is a conjunction. This statement here is not a conjunction, it's a conditional. It does have a consequent that's a conjunction, but this would be an error. There's not really a corresponding mistake for the conjunction rule since you're making a new thing rather than taking things apart. So I believe that covers the most common errors people make with these two rules.